Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for attending today. We have a wonderful panel and group of guests today that we're very excited about for our show, Stronger. This show was meant to really give us time to communicate and to share information, share ideas, share stories, and we're in a really good position to do that today with just a great group of guests. We have 7 different guests, plus myself, plus Mike, our studio guy, and we have a lot of good information and a lot of good stories to tell. So thanks again for joining. We know that everybody is having a very interesting time in their lives and their businesses and their families, and appreciate you taking the time to join us. We have a great group. First, let's go ahead and start with Eric Mason. He is a industry veteran. He's been in the hospitality business since 1994. He's been in the vacation rental business since 2005. He's a vacation rental entrepreneur. He started several different companies in the vacation rental industry. He's an active advisor for many different types of companies and hotel companies in the hospitality space. So we're very happy to have him. He's also a partner in a consulting company, Yes Consulting, and CEO of Leisure Exchange. So his resume could go on for too long. It could go on for 20 minutes. So we're very happy to have him because he's got a lot of great experience. We've also got Brady, the CEO and co-founder of Rental Guardian. We know that travel insurance is a hot topic right now, and we've got some great information to share. And we're looking forward to hearing from Brady during this show. And we are happy to have Joanne, the founder and managing partner of New England Vacation Rentals. And she has 140 properties out of Cape Cod and been a great Streamline partner for many years to come. So we're happy to have her on board. She's got a boutique company and does a really good job out there in a summer destination, which makes this crisis and this ordeal we're dealing with, I think, a bit more concerning for her as her summer season comes up. We've got Fred Cicerna, and he is outside enjoying the beautiful weather, it appears, and he is the owner of Getaway Vacations. We wanted to have a small company that has about 40 properties in Vermont to represent some of those companies out there that aren't necessarily giant. They're more boutique and a little bit more small business mode, and Fred's a great representation for that. He lives in New York and commutes actually to Vermont, and he's been commuting for 3.5 hours a week, I should say, to and from for many years. So this stay-at-home sort of order, or social distancing has changed his life pretty significantly. And his winter season has just passed. So we'll talk about the differences between the summer destination and the winters and those sort of things. We've got Steve Schwab. He is the founder of CasaGo, and he is a former Army Ranger. Thank you for your service, Steve. As always, much appreciated. He's been in the industry for about 20 years now, since 2001. He's got 2,700 units in Mexico and US and different cities. He's got 6 resorts and a bunch of vacation rental homes on the border of Arizona, where we are at Streamline. So we know him very well, and he's got a lot of great experience having companies in different countries, and Scottsdale, Santa Barbara, Park City, Sedona, Tucson, Big Bear. So he's someone that's dealing with a lot right now, I'm sure, with different areas and venues and locations. And obviously, he'll have some great light to shed. And then you have Jennifer Mucha, and she is a longtime Streamline partner as well. She has grown from, let's say, 10 properties to 300 properties in several years, 320 properties, and operates in a variety of locations as well, from California to Oregon to Washington to Hawaii. So we've really got a great panel. Betsy Taylor's on the call. She has been in property management for 16 years and also in the technology side of vacation rentals for 19 years. So she brings a lot of great insight when it comes to that. She's currently working for Southern Shores as the operations manager and the Outer Banks, and she's got some good information as well. So that is our panel, and we're very happy to have everybody. Thank you for joining us. I wanted to start with Betsy Taylor because she has an interesting story when it comes to the bridge. Why don't we start with you telling us what you've experienced since this has started, Betsy, from what's happened since the crisis started and what you've seen in the Outer Banks, which is obviously a massive vacation rental destination. It's quite entertaining and interesting to understand what they've gone through.
Well, thank you, Brett. I'm happy to be here and see everyone. March 17th, they restricted access to the Outer Banks, which is an island. So they have the bridges basically closed, only to residents or suppliers or handyman and local workers. Vacation rental people are not allowed to come, and owners are not allowed to come, which has really caused an issue with the owners saying that, you know, why can't they come and things like that. And this has been since March 17th. As of yesterday, Currituck County, one of the counties on the island, is going to let their owners in. And then in May 4th, 5th, and 6th, they're going to stagger letting the Dare County owners into the properties. But, you know, they've been advised they need to bring, you know, their own supplies, toilet paper, paper towels, meats. You know, we have a very limited amount of grocery stores and suppliers, and we can't hardly get anything now. So we're letting them on. So we're going to need, you know, they need to bring their own stuff. But it has been a very unique situation, you know, for sure. I can't hear you, Brett. You're on mute.
That's right. I just saw a television show come out on Netflix called Outer Banks. Have you seen that?
Yes, I have, and that is not the Outer Banks. Number one, it was filmed in South Carolina. Love South Carolina, but it's not the Outer Banks. And those people are really not indicative of our population.
I wanted to give you.
I tried to watch it. I tried to watch it, but no.
I wanted to give you a second to say that because I sort of figured.
Yeah.
Let's pivot to Steve Schwab for a second. We'll come back to you, Betsy, and we'll talk about some of your challenges or some of the things you're dealing with on property care and property services. But Steve, one of the unique things about you is you're dealing with multiple countries. You're dealing with multiple regions. What are some of the challenges that you've seen dealing with other parts of the world during this time?
Well, you know, a lot of what's happening here in the U.S. is multiplied in other countries. So, for instance, in Mexico, while the people there aren't, don't have work, they also don't have such things as unemployment or the social safety nets that we have here in the U.S. And the government's really not friendly to helping them out. So, in towns like Puerto Penasco, and Rocky Point, where they've literally closed the entire city down. They've put a 24-hour curfew on everybody. Social distancing to the point where you're not allowed to have any more than one person in a car at a time. There's also there's no way for our workers to actually get anything right now. You know, those housekeepers that were paid on piecework, we're taking food down there and helping them out, feeding them right now because the towns are literally starving down in these third world countries. And so, at some point, where does the cure become worse than the disease for these people? So, we have a diversity of different cities. That's some of the worst of it. And then in places like Park City, where we have a very different inventory mix, we haven't had to let anybody go. The offices are running at and actually still making money today. So understanding, your own inventory mix, your where you fell in your seasonality to this, and then for us internationally, what kind of social safety nets are out there really matter to your staff right now.
So Steve, one of the things you brought up was you've gone through 3 economic crashes. What are some of the lessons, and this has been the third, what are some of the lessons learned from you throughout these as such a prominent multi-destination company?
Well, every time there's a crash, there's an opportunity. So one, just like the name of your show here, the ability to come out stronger is absolutely there if you're willing to have the mental fortitude to buckle down and get it done. Staying light is always something that's important. We'll see a lot of people that will take on a lot of debt or a lot of expenses in the good times, and about every 10 years there seems to be these sort of problems. And if you saddle yourself down with too much commitment on things that you think are going to make money, when those are the things that will take you down. So staying light. As you go through these things, there's the 3 C's of surviving a downturn. And the first one is cut. You got to cut fast, you got to cut early, and you got to cut deeper than you think you need to. Then you got to consolidate, and you got to take everything that's left and consolidate it down so it's efficient. And then you just have to conserve until it's over and you come out of it. And a lot of people will start to see some recoveries and they think it's going to be okay, but the most dangerous part of these economic problems is when things start to come back, because people may be able to survive at get very, very small, but suddenly when you have to ramp back up, that's usually when most of the PMs crash.
That's great insight, and love that. 3 C's is a very interesting way of looking at it. Let's move over to Fred. So Fred, we spent a while talking, and some of the changes that you've had lifestyle wise. You've been commuting from New York on Tuesdays to Vermont until Friday, and then coming back for several years now. And it looks like you're staying home and spending more time with your family and changing your lifestyle during this period. Has that been welcomed? Has it been a nice change, a nice break, and obviously hopefully return to normal soon? But
it's been a nice break. I really miss being home, but I also enjoy my ride up there and enjoy working when I'm in the office. And so, but that's why I'm sitting outside, because I'm afraid if I'm in the living room, somebody's going to come walking through, and got 2 teenage boys, and my wife's out doing things. So it's the same that you see with everybody else. It's challenging, but it's also gives you an opportunity to change the way you do things. Like I've been doing a lot of Zoom calls with my team and feel like we're coming together a little bit more. We've been doing meetings in the morning and just to touch base with everybody, because when you're not coming to an office, you kind of feel separate. And I also kind of hard on myself because I feel like I'm not as productive as I should be in the mornings because I'm having coffee and chilling. But I also see my calendar has like 5-6 different Zoom calls a day. It's crazy, but it's good. It's a good change though for me.
well, Fred, I was fascinated with your agenda, right? Because your winter season just passed, and maybe 80% of your winter season was very strong, and then towards the end, it with this coronavirus, it sort of came to a halt. But the fact that the next 4 or 5 months you've really pivoted your strategy, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're going to be doing on your team to try to hone in and focus on coming out of this thing stronger?
Well, we're kind of in our off season now, and yes, we got hurt the last 2 weeks of March, but come April 1 is when our season dies down anyway. So between April and June, July, when hopefully we'll start to see some reservations come in, we're doing a lot of property audits. We're doing inventory. We're communicating with our owners a bit more frequently now, just because now's the time to do the deep cleans, schedule audits, schedule maintenance projects that need to be done, review some of the reviews from our past guests over the season, be able to reflect those kind of reviews back to the owners as far as things that need to be upgraded, And I have a feeling we're going to be quite busy. And we're also doing internal grading that where we're going to grade a property either A, B, C, or D. And then this is only internal, and we're going to provide those grades back to our owners and letting them know why they were graded certain grades, and it gives them an opportunity to improve their properties. And right now, you know, we're using a product now that will kill COVID-19 within 3 minutes of contact. So we're investigating an ozone machine possibly. So there's a lot of time to retool and really work on our property management, because we're not only a vacation rental company, we're a property management company. So we're full service. So I'm really looking forward to it. And I think there's an opportunity to bring in a lot of good revenue, but also improve the properties, which will improve the guest reviews. And so it's a win-win.
Love that. And I think that there is a potential opportunity for increased revenue streams through going to the owners when these properties are empty, and for some of the destinations, and creating a renovation process, or like you said, deep cleans, property audits, and try to continue to move forward on the property management side, as we call ourselves. This is really truer than ever, right? So Eric Mason is somebody who's been seen a lot. We wanted to bring him in to shine some light on some just general broad perspective. I know that he's part of a group that's basically it's the Vistage group. It's a group of global CEOs, a network of CEOs, and they meet every month for a full day to talk about things. What have you been seeing in you know, generally in the world, but also how it relates to vacation rentals? And I know you thought it would be nice to bring up some legal concerns and some legal situations that might come forth with guests, with your internal companies. So give us an idea of what you've been learning and talking about there.
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. It's good to see everybody. Well, conveniently, we just had an 8-hour Zoom call yesterday, which is a Vistage get together among a group of 16 to 18 CEOs from different industries. So we spent the day yesterday talking about, you know, what sort of implications, you know, COVID presents to various industries. And we spoke, you know, sort of ideating, if you will, against each industry and what some of the challenges that might emerge from this. Obviously, we're seeing some of them, which is, you know, sort of a contraction of consumer spending, being out there, people losing their jobs, not having the discretionary income to consume the services or products that either of us, you know, presented to the market. But, you know, some of what we kind of got into is, as we all like to look around the curve or over the hill to when we get back to some sort of sense of normal, you know, what will we have to do for the long term? And when I say long term, you know, I look for things that are going to be required before we get a vaccine or before we get some sort of treatment that's effective, that once we get those, things start to loosen up and perhaps, you know, kind of start to free up the economy a little bit more. But until we get there, you know, what's going to be expected of us? We've got employees to think about. We've got guests or consumers to think about. What's going to be our liability, if you will, to kind of have them you know, enter our business or patronize our services or our companies. So, you know, we have, you know, in the group, we have higher ed president, we've got, you know, Secretary of Health and Human Services, we've got nanotech, we've got all sorts of industries, but all of us at the end of the day, at some point, have a consumer. And, you know, if you think about our industry, the travel industry, the vacation rental industry, or hotel industry for that matter, you know, we're going to be inviting guests into our homes, right, or into our lodging or accommodations. So what sort of responsibility are we taking on by doing that actively if we're not taking the proper precautions to ensure that we're doing everything that we can, everything that we're being told to ensure that we're sterilizing and sanitizing appropriately so a guest is safe. Equally, you know, at the same time, a guest typically has to get from point A to point B. So what sort of you know, how do we understand what a consumer might bring into our units as well, and help sort of mitigate that transmission again before we get to a treatment or sort of vaccine. So we talked yesterday quite a bit about, you know, obviously I spoke about travel and others spoke about their industries, but I think, some of those questions, came to mind. I think they're still open. I think we've got to get some help, perhaps some legal help to try to help us understand what we need to do. But that's just a small few samples of a myriad of points and questions that came up yesterday.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to understand the legal side. To me is fascinating, because at what level are we liable as vacation rental managers to our employees, to our guests, to even our owners, and that, I think, challenge is definitely being ironed out right now. Let me jump down to Joanne Logie, and Joanne is in New England. Obviously, this is an area that's a summer destination when it comes to the Cape Cod zone, and that's obviously a hot area where it comes to the virus. And why don't you give us an idea of how your experience has been, some of the things you've been dealing with? I know that we talked about some of the challenges you've had with the owners and guests, and why don't you clue us in on what you're going through?
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I believe Cape Cod is very similar to what's happening in the Outer Banks. We have 2 bridges that go to the Cape. We've not been closed. When all this started, there was a lot of, unhappiness of residents on the Cape not wanting vacation homeowners to come. We heard a lot of it. What we did right away is we blocked all our calendars until Memorial Day. We did have several reservations for April and May. We got our owners to agree to release those reservations, so that helped a lot. So now our homes basically are empty, but the stay-at-home ban right now, and I don't know, there was a conference at 12 o'clock, I hope it didn't change, but it was until May 4th. And our governor said he was going to be very slow in releasing life back to Massachusetts. So we presume it'll be a lot longer. So what started with a lot of cancellation requests for what I call fear of travel, what we did was what a lot of other companies did. We offered to move the reservations, to look also about, June, July, and August still look good. You could use it. And then if all else fails, you could default on your second payment, which meant they would keep 50% and the other 50% would go to the owner, and we would get to keep our fee or commissions. The challenge I find with cancellations, and I know my nice NEVR team would agree with me, is that we are a performance-based company. So we live and die by our commissions. And if you release back all of those funds, you have no money to operate. We've always been a very strong financial company. I told you yesterday, we've always operated as a cloud-based, very lean and mean company, very mobile from day one. So everything's been in the cloud. We use Google Docs, we have RingCentral. We've always been able to communicate with our owners, our staff, everyone really easily. So that's definitely a challenge for us, as if this goes longer, is how to keep our commissions. And we're working with owners and letting them know, listen, we want to keep our commissions because we've worked for the money. We marketed your house, we found the right guest, we processed the reservation, we've communicated, we earned that commission. So that's really our dissension. The other thing we're gearing up is cancellations are coming in less now. Now the topic is, well, how are you cleaning these properties? How are you going to guarantee disinfectant? So for the last 3 weeks, we've been working on a new cleaning document, and Dirk Johnson helped us with it. So we gave the products, it's all set to go, and it's all steps that has to go into place that each cleaner that takes care of our homes has to sign and agree to. On the other side, we're providing our guests with, here's how we're disinfecting your home, but there's the caveat that, we're going to do our best, but as we all know, in maintenance and anything else, it's not foolproof, and there is a risk. And there's also, question is, what if a guest does enter a home with the virus and decides they need a quarantine there, things like that. So, but we're always optimistic. We have a great staff. I love my team. We speak every morning. We have a meeting via RingCentral, which we had even before this started. We use Google Docs as a flowing task list every day to what's hot that needs to be worked on, and then individual staff members have things they're working on. So there's never a question of what we're doing or how we're doing, and I think that's been the greatest part of keeping us strong.
Absolutely. And so many people in this industry have been talking about how great their teams are. And I think that that is a testament of how great our industry is and how passionate we are about our industry. And I did want to pivot over to Jennifer. We had a pretty striking conversation yesterday. And one of the things that stood out from our conversation, and you have 320 properties with your company Arrived, is that you are looking at this as an opportunity for a rebirth and an opportunity to clean house, to have a reset opportunity. And I really think that that this is something that with you being such a positive minded person that I'd love you to share.
Yeah. So we, like you mentioned, grew from less than 10 properties when we first signed up with Streamline to over 300 in the course of, I don't even know, is it 5 or 6 years? It's been not very long, which that rate of growth, you do what you can to absorb and adapt as you go, but you go through phases where you feel like you're hanging on and maybe not making the most proactive decisions. You're just kind of hanging on and doing the best you can in the moment. And then when things slow down a little bit, you have time to absorb what happened, to make the best decisions, maybe to adapt and adjust a little bit. Well, this is giving us a complete restart, and it's giving us extra time. We've never had this amount of downtime. The business started, by the way, a lot more than 6 years ago, but we were growing slowly until then. So this was the first time that we've actually in 15 years been able to just sit down and go, we have a lot of staff and a lot of time, and what are the things that we've done in the past 15 years or the past 5 years that worked well at the beginning, but they could work better now, and what can we look at and what tools can we take to improve on it? So, you know, the first things you have to do are cut out the extraneous issues that maybe it wasn't the best employees, or maybe it wasn't the best subscription that you had to something. So obviously we first attached, you know, direct cost to things and cleaned house that way. And then after that, we just went, okay, now how do we make everything better that we're using? You know, we have, the mentality has always been to use Streamline in particular as the tool to do everything. I would rather not have integrations with other companies. If I can have something that's a direct integration with Streamline, I don't need a channel manager, you know, all those things. And that's why I love Streamline. So to be able to take that and look at all the tools that we use in there and say, wait, we actually aren't using the guest portal. How can I get that set up now? And so it's giving us a chance to go in and research and see what there is in there that we can use. And the nice thing is it is robust enough to be able to handle our locations and what we do, and take those multiple locations that we have, pull the reports that we need, figure out which ones where we have the best return on investment on, which ones we don't, and then how can we improve on that. So we've gone through everything. We've started to go through the departments, each department taking an inventory of what they do, where their money goes, how to make that better, and then, you know, right down to each document. Do we really want that document going out? Is it going out on the right trigger? So from every part of the company, we've kind of done an audit, and Brett mentioned that it was like halftime. Totally good sports analogy for what I consider it to be, which is, you know, it's just a restart. We're able to restart and grow from here. The one thing that I discovered yesterday is that new owner module is amazing. So now we're going to spend time working with our owners on training them on the new owner module in Streamline, and saying, look, here are, you know, here's a new tool. Here's a positive thing in this downturn. We're still here. We're still strong. And look, we even have better tools for you now that are coming out of it. So being able to present this downturn in a positive light has been huge.
I love that. And if people have any way to dig into whatever technology they're using or whatever tools and resources are, I think that's probably one of the primary things that people can do to take advantage of this time. I wanted to pivot over to the most exciting topic in all of travel, which is travel insurance. And it's always fun to talk about, but Brady has, it's been a hot button in the industry with all the different claims and all the different situations. But I wanted Brady to chime in on a new program that I think could help a lot of vacation rental managers and give an overview of the difference between travel insurance and what he is releasing at Rental Guardian, which is a direct relationship between the property management company and and the travel insurance or the insurance company. So it's a little bit different, but why don't you clue everybody in, Brady, on how this can help people during this
Yeah.
time?
No, absolutely. Thank you, Brett, and really appreciate you doing this podcast. I think it's really important for the industry and for all of us to come together and figure out a path forward. In early 2019, this is a year before any of what we're dealing with now with the COVID pandemic and things of that nature. Myself and John Slaughter were at a trade event, and we were talking about just the different requests that come in for travel insurance. Travel insurance, there are specific covered reasons that are in a policy, and the insured party is the traveler. That is kind of how travel insurance works. But so many different property management companies were having different issues with, whether it be, Airbnb or HomeAway or a dispute with the guest, and they wanted to have more control, more protection for both their revenue as well as their homeowners that they represent. And this set us on a path to build a program. And what we did in the spring and early summer of 2019 is come up with a program that would enable property managers to have more flexible terms and conditions that they could offer their guests, and have a insurance mechanism or program that would act as a financial backstop for that. Meaning that if you're a traveler and you put down 25%, 50%, or it was an OTA booking, the property manager would be protected. And the way the program works specifically is it provides protection for property management companies if they have guest cancellations from 60 days up to and including 2 days before check-in. And what that kind of does is, I think, a couple of different things, especially right now where all of us are anxious to, we've all got cabin fever. We're hoping and praying that there's going to be a lot of travelers back out this summer making bookings and all these great destinations represented by everybody on the call today. And if you incorporate the Master Cancel program, it's going to enable those travelers. They may be a little apprehensive, they may be a little timid coming into the season. And if they're able to cancel up until 2 days before check-in, it might be that extra nudge to get them off the sideline, to make that booking, to commit with maybe finances and things like that being tighter. The other thing about Master Cancel that we originally didn't anticipate, but we're now realizing in talks with some of the different OTAs, is that if you offer more flexible terms and conditions, the OTAs are also willing to give those properties more favorable listing placement on their listing pages. And there's even some of the OTA programs will offer additional discounts through channel management. And then lastly, I wanted to touch on too, one of the other big things about the Master Cancel program is that we have property management companies using the program right now in their off season when they're talking to owners and they're explaining to owners, yes, we went through this issue where we had to refund all of the funds to the guest. Airbnb refunded the funds to the guest. We weren't in control. By implementing the Master Cancel program, it's going to protect those property managers and protect the owners. So, like I said, initially when our team came up with the program, the coronavirus COVID wasn't even on the radar for us. This is March or April of 2019. And where we sit today, it's just, it's been incredibly busy, but we're incredibly excited to be able to offer this program to the vacation rental industry, because I think it really fills an important need in the marketplace right now.
So in short, Brady, just for soundbite, if somebody signs up
Yep.
with the Master Cancel program, they pay the property manager pays a certain percent,
Right.
fairly low percent to the insurance company if
Correct.
they cancel, and if for any reason, including let's say COVID coming back and a second wave, et cetera, the
Yes.
insurance company covers 90 whatever percent, whatever the percentages are that you have, but it's the vast majority of the reservation cost. So if let's say Jennifer does start taking bookings and wants to take those going into, let's say, the summer or the winter or whatever, things come around and,
Yep.
and the virus starts to recycle again and people have to cancel, Jennifer's money is not lost, not all of it.
100%. So what happened right now for the initial group that got on before the coronavirus hit, they're getting these reimbursement checks for bookings that they took in October, November, and December for early spring. We initially rolled it out in the UK, and it's been a huge success and a huge blessing for those property managers that had it in place before the coronavirus. So those type of specific situations is get started on the program. The cost is based on your historical, looking back at your 12 months of cancellation data. And we're looking at the data like mid-February back, so that the coronavirus, it's not a typical type of event. So that may throw the numbers off a bit. So we're looking from basically February 15th of 2020 back 12 months. And then the underwriting comes up with the specific small percentage. And then that's an operating cost for the property management companies, but that's going to protect property managers. They get reimbursed the entire amount, less a 10% deductible. The deductible is waived if they rebook the property. But what it delivers is if a property manager received a 25% deposit, a 50% deposit, or it's an OTA booking and Booking.com and Airbnb is holding the revenue, it protects that revenue from 60 days up until 2 days before check-in. And it's very compelling, especially given what we've just gone through. And property management companies are thinking of better ways to run their operations, how to protect revenue, how to protect their owners. And I really think it delivers something unique to the industry. And it's backed by Lloyd's of London. So we couldn't be more excited to be rolling out another innovative program to the industry.
Thanks for that, Brady.
Absolutely.
Eric, tell me, being that you've been in hospitality for so many years in different fronts, when it comes to resorts, when it comes to hotels, when it comes to vacation rentals, what do you project, or what do you foresee with so much experience in all these different verticals? What's going to change in coming out of this in our hospitality and travel space?
Whew, big question. And it's one that I'm asked often. Actually, I've actually jotted down a few of the top questions I'm asked almost on certainly a weekly basis. Is when will my guests return? When will we get back to some sort of a normal expected occupancy that we were experiencing before the crisis? And a couple of the issues that aren't talked about very often are, will my staff still be there when I need them to come back? In destinations, it's going to be really hard because it's expensive to live without a paycheck. And then another one is, will my homeowner still own the home when we get out of this as well? Because sometimes owners go into, kind of investing in property, maybe a little thinly than they should in terms of down payment and wherewithal. So I think, honestly, if we look at, as we all learn, because we all are learning on a daily basis of what this means currently. And again, going back to my prior comment, when we get a treatment and a vaccine, things sort of change a little bit, obviously, getting back to maybe the real norm that we used to experience. But until then, there's a lot of unknowns. I think we're all consumers, right? We can all think, how we all look at travel right now. I know I get together with a group of friends on a weekly basis and we talk about sentiment in terms of our own families. Are we comfortable getting on airplanes right now? Well, maybe not so much. Are we comfortable, kind of going to a kind of an unknown or a foreign environment? Maybe not so much right now. But I think as we're addressing all of these issues, cleanliness and sanitation and sterilization, and then how do you get from point A to point B, some of those start to free up and loosen up a little bit, or we'll start to kind of, get into a more normal operating mode as a society. But I think we're all kind of questioning, will we, I just real quick, lodging type has come up over the last few weeks in terms of who's going to come out better than some of the other segments. I've heard comments like, hey, holiday rentals, vacation rentals might fare better because if you have to confine yourself when you're not out in a destination to a particular location, having a home to do that in might be perceived as a better experience, right? Because you've got a living room and a kitchen and all that to cater yourself versus perhaps a hotel environment where you may just have one confined space. So I think everybody's reevaluating in terms of, what's my product offering like, what's the space that we're going to have to offer consumers, given that we might be constrained for a bit. And then we're all going to have to make a decision as a consumer, what really makes sense for us. And at the end of the day, when are we going to really feel comfortable getting out there again?
Well said, Eric. I wanted to ask Fred. He told me a story yesterday about some communication he had that he wanted to recommend people were careful about when it comes to his guests, and basically having sent a message out to folks trying to get them to get out of the city, get into the vacation rentals in the area. So given there's such a focus on community here, Fred, why don't you give them an idea of the story and maybe give people a heads up?
Yeah, I mean, what we were discussing with our marketing company, doing some communications out to our past guests. And, when this all kind of started to become an issue with the coronavirus back in the beginning of, probably it was the beginning of March, we put together this email thinking that, it'd be a good idea if people that were kind of wanted to get out of the city and come up to Vermont, to get away from, the larger populations and go stay in a vacation rental, we thought was a great idea. And as soon as we got that message out, in the same day, the governor closed the state for stay at home. So kind of backfired, and it really wasn't a great solution. And as a result, the locals kind of got found out about it. It just got kind of, wasn't a good idea now in hindsight, so you just got to be real careful. And now we're extremely careful of how we communicate with our, guests. And so it's just something you got to just be aware of. That's all.
Thanks for sharing that, Fred. Betsy, so given your role in overseeing housekeeping and maintenance and inspections and the property services side of things, I know you've been tuning into a lot of the dialogue in the space, like Joanne said, from Dirk and some of the best practices. What do you think is going to change as things start to loosen up? What are some of the things you've got to focus on to come out of this in a way that helps encourage guests to be there and takes care of them?
Yeah, Brett, their normal is never going to be normal again. It's a new normal that we're dealing with. So I've been working, like you said, I've been working with Dirk and, my peers in the industry to see how they're handling things. We have a much larger list now that we do in addition to our cleaning that we use for disinfecting every touch point in the house. So that takes more time. You have to pay the cleaners more. Everybody is going to have to wear masks and gloves in the house. So it's just, it's a lot, and it just trickles down everywhere. Plus the fact that the majority of our cleaners obviously live off island, and only a few have been able to come to work. So the training that we usually do every year and the hiring, that is, we haven't been able to do that because you can't have more than 10 people in a room at a time. They can't get here. So it's just a lot of planning for the future and just waiting. For us, it's just waiting for the bridge to open. I mean, our economy is driven by tourism like everybody there, but, I'm not sure about your areas, but, you can't go into a restaurant. Everything has to be takeout. There's no shopping, only essential businesses. So it's been really hard.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's going to become a more and more important topic of conversation as things start to come back to the new normal and people start to be able to get in these vacation rentals and what are the new policies? What are the best practices? Steve, I wanted to ask you, we talked earlier about how you're diversifying to obviously be able to deal with these things a little bit more. Talk about the importance of from an adaptability perspective some of the diversification that you're focusing on.
Yeah, so after the 2008-2009 crash, I was really heavy. Well, I was all in Mexico, and I decided to come to the U.S. and start opening offices so I could diversify not only the inventory from an international point of view, but also from a seasonality point of view, so I could have winter markets, spring, summer, fall markets, and I thought that was a pretty good plan. What I didn't plan for was a worldwide pandemic where all seasons are shut down in hospitality. So while it seemed like it's been a good plan, it's not a foolproof plan. So we have a couple different destinations like Park City. One of the reasons why Park City is doing well is when I bought a small company there, the woman who had owned it had been very heavy into home care and home watch. And when I first bought it, I was like, people are like, hey, are you in Park City? I'm like, yeah. Well, how many properties do you have? Well, we only have a few vacation rentals, but there's a lot of there's these 50 home watch accounts, but we're going to build a vacation rental side. Well, I mean, that's turned out to be such a blessing there in Park City. We haven't had to lay anybody off. We've been able to continue. We got, they were considered, our maintenance guys are considered essential staff, so that they're out there making sure no floods are happening or fires or any problems, so that, there's no emergency responders having to gather together. And it set me down the path of, not only diversifying from a point of view of what is our, what's your seasonality, what's your portfolio type. You're not just doing vacation rentals on the beach, you're also doing it in the mountains or something like that, which was my original plan, but diversifying your service types. We're all kind of built, we're all set up and built to do property management. In fact, actually, the bar in which we operate at as vacation rentals is much greater than residential property managers. And while the commissions aren't as high, there is a little bit less work. Also, the response times don't have to be quite as fast with residential long terms. So we've been building out some click funnels and landing pages, and we're going specifically after a diversification of our service types. We're going after residential. My goal is to build a third of my inventory into long-term now. And we're already geared up to do it. So a third of my inventory is going to be long-term, because if you look at a third of your inventory being long-term, not giving up the inventory I have now, but building that on top of it, in a crash like this, say there are people who can't pay rent. Maybe that's 10, 15, 20%, but taking a 20% hit on your income is a lot better than 90 or 100% right now, right? So diversifying into long-term, diversifying into home watch and home care, things that we're already geared up to do. We don't have to recalibrate or rebuild the system. The systems are built for it. It's just reaching out into those other industries, because quite honestly, residential management and hospitality management is, while the functions are the same, it's really two different industries you're working in. And so we're looking to come out of this stronger by having a much more diverse portfolio in all the cities that it matters. And I understand that there's a lot of property managers in areas that maybe long-term isn't a thing for them, right? But maybe property care or home, or home care, home watch might be. So taking the machine and repurposing it into other incomes is a big push we're doing right now, and it's actually working. We're even in the middle of this, we're getting people signing up their residential long terms with us, and so that's one of our big ways of coming out of this better, stronger.
Excellent. Diversification is such an important. It reminds you, these types of situations, how important diversification is. So thanks for bringing that to light. Joanne, you were doing so much guest experience work when it came in guest relationship building prior to all this going on. Have you continued the building the relationships with guests? I mean, are you still positive marketing to them? Are you, from a cancellation perspective, obviously, are you mostly just focused on that? Or I guess this is something for anybody to answer on the panel too, is how are the guest relations right now when it comes to your communication to them, your approaches with them? What's helped? What's been difficult? And I'd like to open that up to the panel.
I think what's happened for us is we've always done positive marketing, always. So when this all started, we don't do email blasts because right now we think that's too impersonal, but one-on-one emails to our guests, especially those that, we have elder clients that are coming in their 80s and 90s. They're afraid of travel. So we want to assure them of what they need to be assured for. So there's personal marketing there. And then in our social media, we always do very positive, showing the beauty of Cape Cod. We even have a bag with some bleach in it at one of the, at the beaches. We just did a marketing video that was called Dreaming of Cape Cod. And it just was a short 58-second video of what a summer is like on the Cape Cod. And it really said, Dreaming of Cape Cod, when you're ready, we'll be here for you. And it just was quick. It was so popular that the individual chambers asked us if they could use it in their marketing. So it's really been along that way. I think when you communicate with guests in cancellations, you have to be upfront with them. And we tried to give them right up front, we're sorry, we want to work with you. Here are your options. Because as you know, Grady, 99% of them do not take trip insurance, no matter how we stand on our heads and blow bubbles for them to do that. We had a tornado last year and we swore in our staff, that's it. Everyone has to take trip cancellation insurance. And then you're speaking to someone who's like 80 years old. No, Joanne, I am coming to the Cape unless I'm dead. So you get all that all the time. And then now they're calling, but we didn't do it. Now what are our options? So you just have to be, firm.
You make it too fun to come there.
What?
Yeah, I said you make it too fun to come there. It's too great of a place, right? So
being firm, but gentle, because at the end of the day, we need to move people forward. And as we on our team say, we got to hold on to those commissions, no matter what, how are we going to do that?
Well, here we've been taking, our guests, we have guests that are in-house or that are coming. We're kind of a, year-round destination and canceling week by week. We are returning all of their money because we're in North Carolina and the real estate commission says that we have to. Plus the fact, of course, that travel insurance does not cover something like this. So we've had disappointed people. Some of them we have been able to move into the summer. Some of them just, this was the only time they could come. And not knowing when they are going to be coming back, we are trying to keep the lines of communication open. We do email blast, like you say, and then we do call them and talk to them afterwards to see if we can, try to move them to someplace this, within this year.
I have a question for you. If, let's say, are these people that where the travel ban is in place now, or are you getting people for July and August that are just afraid to come? Are you giving them their money back?
Not for July and August. It's just like week by week. So right now we're up into the end of April, right? So those people we know can't come after the decision yesterday of the stay in place order that is gone through April 22nd now, I believe. That means that, we were probably, May 22nd, we're not going to be able to have those rentals either. But all we can do is reach out to the guests, tell them what's happening, our Facebook and our social media, everything, and just keep them informed. It's a day by day.
I think it's twofold. I think you have to release the reservations by the travel ban. So obviously we've released and given full refunds by the travel ban, but those guests for June, July, and August that want to cancel, and even September, we're giving them three options. A, please come, things might be okay by then. 2, let's move you to another date. Or 3, don't pay your balance of your reservation and we'll call it a day. But that's for June, July, and August. But May, everyone's been given back. Up to May 19th, everyone's been given their money back.
Yeah, I would imagine that is how we're going to be doing it also. Of course, we've given the owners half of their money already, so we have to get that back from them.
We did the same thing. So I spoke about this yesterday with Brett. If performance companies live and die by their commissions, how do companies carry on? If you don't have a strong cash flow or reserve of your commissions, that all the other money is in escrow and protected, but your commission money, that's where I think companies are going to get themselves into trouble.
Yeah, because when you give that money back, you're losing your commission.
Correct.
That you've probably already spent because you got it earlier in the year. So, yeah.
Jennifer, I wanted to ask you from a perspective on Hawaii, which is such a different type of place than most other American destinations. Is there been any striking differences with the Hawaii experience when it comes to you having properties in California and Oregon and Washington? What's Hawaii like right now?
It was actually kind of interesting because it started, I think didn't the West Coast got hit with the highest number of deaths earlier, but I think Florida ended up banning and North Carolina and South Carolina. I think the East Coast ended up banning vacation rentals most, like, I don't know, earlier in March, it seems like. Anyway, it seemed to roll through. So our West Coast locations, it kind of rolled through. Each ordinance that would come through from either the state government or a local government would shut things down. Hawaii, ironically, was one of the very last places that had any restrictions in place. It was one of the very last places that we were hit with cancellations. All that being said, as we all know now, and logically so, it's shut down way more than everywhere else. And because it's not a driving location, I suspect that it's going to be the last to come back also. It was very much the last to fall off the map. People were, people that were headed over there just went over there and stayed over there was what happened. They just never went back to New York. They never went back to San Francisco. They're just still in our places. And then everybody else quit coming. There's a 14-day quarantine over there currently. If they land, they have to go directly to their location. They can't even really stop at the grocery store. They go directly to their location and they have to be there for 14 days. When they can come out of their location, they can't go to the beach. So it's not a great place to be. So it's turned into essentially, an Outer Banks situation where the bridge is the airplanes, where nobody's going to go, nobody can get there. It's not ideal to be there if they are. So I think it's going to be a pretty slow recovery over there just because of the travel time that it takes to get there, because it is a flying destination and because the calendars are virtually clear for the next, I would say 45 days for sure. But the cancellations are coming pretty quickly for June and July for Hawaii still. Like they're further out than most locations. So, yeah.
I know cancellation policies are one of the main things that people are talking about. This is the time where everyone's having to figure that out. I mean, does anybody, because we have a few questions over here on the Q&A panel. What are you, I know we've sort of touched on it a little bit, but what do people here think is the best way to handle cancellation policies moving forward?
Get the insurance with Brady.
I personally
I think being adaptable, the whole thing that we were talking about, which is that this is a good reset. It's a good time to look at cancellation policies and to say, how has what I've been doing worked, and is it the right thing going forward? And if it's the right thing going forward, is it just for the next 6 or 12 months, or is it for the future of the company? Because right now you have less reservations than you've ever had. So changing a policy, it's the perfect time to change policies too. And I think that the expectation, because of what Airbnb decided to do, whether you agree with it or not, is that because that happened, it changed the world. It changed the guest expectations. It changed what we can offer to our homeowners. We can't guarantee them that they're going to get money for an Airbnb stay, because Airbnb is going to make the call, and we aren't going to pay our owners if we don't get the money from Airbnb. So it changed all those dynamics. So we have to look at that and make a decision for ourselves. So it's another good reset.
I think last year when we had the tornado, we had a lot of properties with Airbnb, and out of the blue, they came up, well, we're implementing our extenuating policy and all your reservations now can get refunds. And we were like, what is that? What? There's fine print? So then we got off Airbnb. We're not on it. And then this year, before this all happened, some of our owners wanted to be back on it. So we wrote what the policy was and we made them agree. If you want Airbnb, we're happy to add it for you, but please understand that this is their policy and you have to agree to that. And that's helped a lot.
Well, we're kind of unique here in our area that most of the companies, including us, don't use Airbnb and have very few listings on Vrbo or any other thing like that. You know, we're very much a book direct destination.
That's
I did
great.
find it striking, by the way, that Betsy's, the company you work for, Southern Shores, has been around since 1947. So
Yep.
I think that's 73 years. So it's in 73 years, we've probably not seeing anything like this. And this is just, I think everybody's obviously in a situation where this is a learning process. There's no playbook. And I love the fact that people are willing to get together and talk about it, even if you're busy, if you have a lot going on. So I definitely appreciate everybody joining this panel today. One of the questions that people asked Fred on this on the Q&A was, what was the product that you were referencing that the COVID would kill the COVID in 3 minutes?
Yeah, a friend of mine, Sean Kemper, he's got the Kemper Industries. He sells a lot of housekeeping products. It's called Husky. Let me see. I think I put it in the comments. Husky 824, but I'm not sure how much of he has. Like anything, products are going quick, so that's what it's called.
Excellent. So Eric, given your broad perspective on everything, what would you advise property managers, given your position in advisory roles and seeing different things over the years? What's the thing that you would tell property managers, just from a high level words of wisdom, as they get through this?
Yeah, it's been mentioned on the call several times. Reevaluate your business currently, because things happen. We live in the good times and we celebrate the good times, but there's the eventual potential for something to go sideways. So we always talk about let's evaluate your cost structure, you know, the way you market, your kind of requirement for kind of external capital, the viability of your homeowner base. You know, what shape are they in, and how's your staffing. And when things like this has kind of thrown the playbook out the window. So we really talk about reinventing yourself. And again, it's been mentioned here. We do have to keep an eye on, guys, this will pass. You know, we can't think this is the end of what we've all, come to love as an industry. We're going to evolve and adapt, and we're going to help each other and learn from each other as we do it. So, I think we're probably, some foreseeable future, 18 months, 2 years, maybe, who knows, scientists may know, maybe they don't, to try to find a vaccine and then how to deploy that. But let's try to figure out how to support our businesses, how to support our homeowners, and frankly, how to support our staff between now and the time we get to a new norm, or the longer term norm. And then we'll have sustainable or stronger businesses because of it. But just kind of look deep into your current organization to figure out what you can do to kind of not incur the pain that some of us are incurring today.
I wanted to let everybody know that, and we spoke about it on the last show as well, is fortunately our product, our experience that we deliver is what everybody wants right now. Everybody wants to get out. They want a vacation. So the second this comes around, we're all going to be ready, and we're going to be delivering some amazing experiences to people for this industry that we all love, we all are very passionate about. And from day one, when I joined this industry in 2006, 2005, I fell in love with it. I know everybody else here fell in love with it. Let's take care of it. Let's nurture it, and let's stick together, communicate, reach out to your neighbors and friends, and we will absolutely 100% come out of this stronger. So thank you so much to the panel. Thank you for the viewers that attended and asked questions. Feel free to reach out offline to anybody here or myself, and have a great rest of your week, and stay strong.